Good morning, class. Today we are going to be writing the first draft of our goal setting letter. To do this, you will have to have finished your brainstorming packet that we did before. Open your paragraph organizer in Kami. Here you'll see that we have the entire letter laid out for you in these boxes. Each box is asking you to write at least one sentence. You can write more, but not less. I encourage you to have fun with this and write as much as you can think to, so I'll be showing you multi-sentence examples. Let's look at the packet as a whole. There are 5 sections which will turn into 5 paragraphs. The sections are split up as follows: introduction, personal goal, academic goal, distance learning goal, and conclusion. They're even color-coded for you to make it easier. We'll go through these sections together as a class, writing an example paper as we go. Periodically, we'll stop to hear examples from the class and give you time to write down what you want. Once we're done, all that's left to do is check over your work and copy it into letter format. How easy is that? Why do we write introduction paragraphs? Well, let's think about this. How often have you been reading something and you just had absolutely no idea what was going on? The writer probably didn't use a very good introduction. The purpose of an introduction is to get the reader familiar with what you're about to tell them. Your job as a writer is to make it easy for your reader to understand what's happening. One way you can do that is to ease them into it and give them an idea of what you're going to talk about before you even start. And that's what we call an introduction paragraph. Our first box is a greeting. I want you to start by thinking about how you've heard letters open in the past. They might say, "Dear John, hi, how are you?" Or, "Dear Michael, I haven't heard from you in a while and I hope everything is okay." Or you might introduce yourself to the person you're writing to. "This is Brady, writing to you from Columbus. We're writing this letter to our future selves, so it might read something like, 'Dear future me,' and then it's up to you whether or not you're going to introduce yourself to the person, because they'll obviously know who you are." Let's look at 2 examples that can fit this assignment specifically. "Hello from the year 2020. How have you been?" Or, if you want to have a little more fun with it, "Sup, homie? I'm writing to you from the year 2020, and I'm pretty sure the world is about to end. What's new with you?" The next box is asking you to explain to the reader why you're writing. This fits into the introduction because it's still helping to make sure that the reader understands where you're going with this. Pause the video for a second to see if you can figure out a way that you would introduce the reasons that you would write a letter to yourself, talking about the goals that you have for this year. I assume you came up with a good example. Here's one if you didn't. "I'm writing to you today to tell you about the different goals I have for the school year." The last box in the introduction is asking you to summarize your goals. This is perhaps the most important part of the introduction because it will tell your readers straightforward what to expect. If all authors did this, it would be easy to skip around in the text to different sections. So there are 2 different ways we can do this. We can either cram all 3 of our goals into one sentence, or we can break it apart. Here's an example of it written in one sentence. "My 3 goals this year are to lose 30 pounds, get to the top of my class, and be more comfortable learning over Zoom." Making them into one sentence might be harder than you'd expect. Here's a helpful way that I like to think about it. Pretend that you had just been asked the question, "What are your 3 goals for this year?" And then restate the question like you would do in a short question answer on a test. Second, make sure that your verbs match. You can be losing, getting, and being, but you can't be losing, get, and being. Those 3 words don't match their endings. So here's another way we can do it, by splitting it up into multiple sentences. "This year, I have 3 goals. I plan to lose 30 pounds, I will get to the top of my class, and I want to be more comfortable on Zoom calls." The next 3 sections all have the same questions, so we'll go over the one in depth, and then it'll be up to you to do the other 2 on your own. Each section is a different goal, and each goal is going to be its own paragraph. So let's get started with our first goal and our second paragraph. A A topic sentence is something you use at the beginning of a paragraph to tell the reader what this paragraph is going to be about. Just like we did an introduction at the beginning of the entire letter, now we need to use smaller orders of just one sentence that will tell the reader what just this paragraph is going to be about. Let's imagine that you're writing a paragraph about your favorite movie. You don't want the first sentence to be, "In this paragraph, I will tell you about my favorite movie." You want it to be more specific than that. You want it to say something like, "In this paragraph, I will explain to you all the reasons why Avengers Endgame is my favorite movie." So how do we write a topic sentence for something like a goal-setting letter? Listen to these 3 basic ways and then decide which one you think works best and modify it to fit the goal that you have. First, I want to tell you about my goal to lose 30 pounds. In this example, we make use of the transition word first, so you can easily see how the next paragraph might start with "and then," or "furthermore," or "next." My first goal is to lose 30 pounds. This method simply comes right out and says, "my first goal," as in, there's going to be a second, and you can see how the next paragraph might easily start with, "my second goal is." In this paragraph, I want to talk about my goal to lose 30 pounds. While it might be a little redundant to say "in this paragraph," it's often a really easy way to start off a paragraph and make sure that you as the writer know exactly what this sentence is supposed to be doing, which is telling the reader what is in this paragraph. Now we're going to say why this goal is important to you. Once again, you can pretend that you're restating a question. Why is this goal important to you? This goal is important to me because. If you have more than one reason, don't be afraid to give them all. Don't hold yourself back, and remember, there are no wrong answers here other than "because my teacher said so." Here's an example. I want to lose weight because it will make me healthy. I think it is important to be healthy because it will make me live longer and be happier. A good goal is one that can be broken down into multiple steps. You should already have done this in the previous packet with each of your goals. Now it's just a matter of taking all of your steps and writing them into a sentence, or 2, or 3, or 4. That's right, just like when we summarized our goal at the end of the introduction paragraph, when we summarize our 3 steps, we have 2 ways we can do it. We can either cram them all into one sentence, or we can split it up into multiple sentences. Do whichever feels more natural to you. Here's an example of putting them all into one sentence. The steps I will follow to lose 30 pounds are to eat healthier foods, eat less food, and exercise more. Again, make sure that you check all of your verbs and that they match in endings. They can't have one that is ing, one that's ed, and one that ends in s. They should all be the same. Now let's see what it would look like if we put them into multiple sentences. My first step to losing 30 pounds is to start eating healthier. After that, I will be sure to eat less. I also plan to exercise more. You should have come up with a plan for each of your steps in the packet that we did before this. Now, in this box, I want you to take the one that you feel is most important and write about it. In my example, I say that I would eat healthier by asking my mom to buy more veggies. I would eat less by buying a smaller lunch, and I would exercise more by taking a walk every day. Any of these would work in our letter, but I'm going to choose the one about exercising because I think it's most important and I have the most to say about that one. So here's what I would write. My plan for getting more exercise is to take a walk every day. There is a park near my house that is a ton of fun to walk through, and I can even ride my bike on nice days. You probably already know that a transition word is a word that we use between sentences to get us from one thought to another about the same subject. So what do we do when we want to transition between paragraphs, which are each about a different subject? We're going to use an entire sentence that will transition us from the topic of the first paragraph to the topic of the next. Writing a transition sentence is actually really easy, but it's always going to depend on what your two paragraphs are about. So there's no real way that I can tell you this will work every single time. But follow these steps and you should always be able to come up with a decent transition sentence. First of all, ask yourself, what is this paragraph about? You should already have written about this in your topic sentence. In my example, this paragraph is about my goal for losing 30 pounds. Now ask yourself, what is your next paragraph going to be about? Again, in my example, my next paragraph is going to be about my goal to get to the top of the class. That's something I already went over when I was writing the summary of my 3 goals. Now you need to ask yourself, how are these two topics related? Are they similar? Are they different? Will one lead to the other? Is one more important to you than the next? So for my 2 topics, I'm thinking that losing weight is something that takes a lot of determination, and getting to the top of my class is also something that takes a lot of determination. So since they share that similarity, I'm going to use that when I write my transition sentence. Step 4 is to actually write it and make sure that you include both topics. Here's how mine would look. If I have what it takes to lose all that weight, I think I'll have what it takes to get to the top of my class. Notice that I explicitly mentioned weight and top of my class, which are the 2 different goals that I'm transitioning between. Okay, let's do one more. Let's go back to step 3 and think of another reason that these 2 goals are related. Well, losing weight is important to me. I am getting kind of fat. But getting to the top of my class is a whole heck of a lot more important. So if that was the relationship I decided between them, my transition sentence might sound something like this. Losing 30 pounds might be important to me, but it's not as important as my next goal, which is to get to the top of my class. Remember that a transition sentence is always going to be unique based on the 2 different topics you're transitioning between in paragraphs. As I said, the next 2 sections are going to be exactly the same as the first 2. So instead of sitting here and going through every single step together again with different examples, here's what I'm going to do. I'll read through what I have so far and then continue going with an example for the next 2 paragraphs. After that, we'll go through the last section together, which is the conclusion. You ready? Here's what we have so far. Sup, homie? It's 2020 right now, and I'm pretty sure the world is about to end. What's new with you? I'm writing to you today to tell you about the different goals I have for the next school year. This year, I have 3 goals. I want to lose 30 pounds. I will get to the top of my class, and I want to be more comfortable on Zoom calls. My first goal is to lose 30 pounds. I want to lose weight because it will make me healthier. I think it is important to be healthy because it will make me live a longer and happier life. The steps I will have to follow to lose 30 pounds are to eat healthier foods, eat less food, and exercise more. My plan to exercise more is to take a walk every single day. There's a park near my house that's a ton of fun to walk through, and I can even ride my bike on nice days. If I have what it takes to lose weight, I also have what it takes to get to the top of my class. Another goal I have is to get to the top of my class. That means I would have the best grade out of anyone. I want to do this because it will make me feel good about myself. I've always wanted to be a genius, and this will make me feel like one. If I'm going to get to the top of my class, I will need to study hard, do all of my homework, and make sure I turn it in. My plan for studying harder is to take better notes. This should be easy since I'll have all of my lessons recorded for me. I really hope to get to the top of my class this year, and since we're learning online, that means I'm going to have to get more comfortable using Zoom. Finally, my goal for distance learning is to get more comfortable with Zoom. I want to be more comfortable with Zoom because I wasn't happy with it last year. The steps I will have to follow are going to all my classes, learning more about how it works, and talking to others about how they got comfortable with it. I plan to learn more about Zoom by using Google to find useful tools, such as keyboard shortcuts. This will make it faster for me to control. By the end of the year, I think I'll be a pro. I want to stop for just a second and look at the transition between our last body paragraph, which is the one about our distance learning goal, and the paragraph that we're about to write together now, which is the conclusion. Since the next paragraph doesn't have its own specific topic, there's not a way to transition in the same format that we did with the other paragraphs. So instead, transition by giving this paragraph some sort of conclusiveness. So I said, by the end of the year, I'll be a pro.